Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Steve Sebelius.
Welcome to the Review-Journal studio. I'm Steve Sebelius. Tonight we're hosting candidates for the Clark County District Court Department 4 bench. Joining us tonight are Phil Aurbach, a shareholder with the firm Marquis Aurbach Coffing, specializing in commercial litigation. Nadia Krall, a sole practitioner practicing in the area of personal injury and also a graduate of the very first class at UNLV's Boyd School of Law. And Barbara Schifalacqua, a Chief Deputy District Attorney in the Clark County District Attorney's Office. Let's begin with opening statements. Mr. Aurbach, to you.
Thank you, Steve. I've lived in Las Vegas for over 60 years. I've grown up in the community. I've been a hard worker. Through high school, I played on the tennis team and was able to get through college on a tennis scholarship. I've given back to the community for tennis by sponsoring tournaments for juniors and for adults. I have 42 years experience as a lawyer. I started out in the district attorney's office. I then did personal injury work. I did mostly commercial litigation relating to contracts, real estate, partnership disputes. We represent doctors and nurses in medical malpractice defense cases right now. I want to give back to the community on using my special expertise in mediation, arbitration, and litigation to help cases move through the system faster.
Ms. Krall.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it. My name is Nadia Krall. I've been in Las Vegas my entire life. I went to high school here, El Dorado High School. I went to undergrad here at UNLV, and I also went to law school here. So I'm proud to call Las Vegas my home. For the past 12 years, I've had my own law practice where I've represented real people with real problems. How are you going to pay your mortgage? Where are you going to come up with the money when your car needs to be repaired? I've also been a small claims court judge for 4 years, and most of the people who come to small claims court cannot afford an attorney. But no matter what, I listen to all of the evidence from both sides before rendering a decision. And I also treat people with dignity and respect, and if elected to Department 4, I would continue to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Schifalacqua.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Review-Journal for this opportunity because it is absolutely important that citizens are informed when they make their choice for judge. I am a Chief Deputy District Attorney, and I have spent my entire legal career exacting justice for citizens of Clark County. I've been a gang crimes prosecutor, a special victim unit prosecutor, and I have prosecuted thousands of cases in Clark County. My reputation simply has been built in a courtroom. I know firsthand how important it is to have judges on the bench that have courtroom experience, and that's exactly why I'm running for District Court Department 4. I've been before good and bad judges, but I am not the type of personality that sits by and criticizes others from the sidelines. It's why I've put my name in this race, and I'm the only candidate endorsed by every major law enforcement agency in Clark County right now because I've dedicated my career to public service. That's why I'm also been endorsed by SEIU, the Service Employees International Union, as they recognize now is my time to elevate my public service as judge in District Court Department 4.
All right, let's start with a philosophical question. Mr. Aurbach, this one will be to you first. Can you describe your judicial philosophy in plain English?
I believe judges should follow the law. They shouldn't just make decisions based on what they think ought to be done in a particular case. So they have to listen to the facts, they have to listen to the credibility of the witnesses, and they should follow the law as it sits on the books.
Ms. Krall?
My judicial philosophy is treating people with dignity and respect. For a lot of people, it's the first time that they've ever actually been into a courtroom. And I always tell people the most powerful person in the room isn't the judge, and it's not the lawyers, it's the jury. It's regular people. You don't need a piece of paper or any degree to come to a decision. And so my philosophy is to be as thorough and hardworking as possible and to treat everyone with the respect that they deserve.
Ms. Schifalacqua?
Thank you. Having spent nearly daily in a courtroom, I think it is so important to have a judge that is open-minded and willing to hear the facts that come before it, but also that allows for clear records to be made by any person that stands before it. I also think that it's imperative to make assessments not based on any political party, race, class, gender, or otherwise of a person that walks through the courtroom, because their job is not to just simply render something based on who stands before them, but is based on what factual basis has been laid following the rules of evidence.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more debates with Department 4 District Court. Welcome back to the debate for Clark County District Court, Department 4. We're going to Ms. Krall next with this question. If you observed a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, how would you handle that situation?
One of the things that I would definitely do would be to take a break and see if it can be remedied with some time for the lawyer to become prepared, and also give the opportunity to the lawyer to continue the matter so we can come back and give good representation to the client. Because in the interest of justice, we need to make sure that people have the proper representation, or if they're self-represented, that they do a good job. That's what I would do.
Okay. Ms. Schifalacqua, what would you do in that situation?
Thank you, I appreciate it. Having been in courts consistently in my career, I think there are a number of things that you can do. First of all, that comes to a dissatisfaction with regard to briefing of a matter. The court can order additional briefing. And so if they were not to believe that the representation was fully briefed, they can order the parties to do so, first and foremost. Second of all, I've absolutely been in court when somebody has been appointed a co-counsel, if need be, specifically on murder cases that I've been with, so that they know that they have qualified counsel and someone to assist them if need be. And I think those are just two of the ways in which a court can remedy any deficiencies that they appear to have before them.
Mr. Auerbach, what would you do in that situation?
I do not believe the judge should be involved in whether one side or the other is poorly represented. And the reason is that the judge is supposed to be independent, make a decision on the facts. If the judge starts taking any action that helps one person and hurts another, it destroys the independence of the judge. And I've seen that happen before. I've objected to some judges' questions and said, Judge, if your question is intended to help my case, I withdraw my objection. But if your question is intended to hurt my case, then I object. The judge shouldn't be involved. They should just listen to both parties and make a decision based on the law.
Thank you. Third question to Ms. Schifalacqua first. Conventional wisdom is that former prosecutors who become judges will be tougher in sentencing criminal defendants than would, say, defense lawyers or civil practitioners. Is this conventional wisdom true or false?
Thank you for the opportunity. I don't believe it's true at all. In fact, I think you're best suited to do a transition from a prosecutor to being on the bench, because my job right now is to seek justice. It's not for one particular party in the courtroom. While defense attorneys have an obligation to defend a person, our job is always to seek what is just. And that is why we give negotiations, make things available to persons to make a fair assessment. That's what we're looking for. And absolutely on the bench, that is what I intend to do. But also when I've been before former prosecutors that are on the bench, I don't see them vastly sentencing in a different manner than, for example, defense attorneys.
Mr. Auerbach, you're a longtime civil attorney. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that many people think that the judge is going to be influenced by whether they're tough on crime or whether they're a prosecutor or a defense counsel. But I think in reality, by and far, what I've seen the most happen is judges make fair decisions based on what's been presented to them. So I don't agree that prosecutors would make tougher sentencing judges or that defense counsel would make lighter sentencing judges.
Ms. Krall, what do you think?
I think it depends on the judge, if I'm being honest with you. I think each judge is individual in that regard from what I've seen in criminal cases, and they look at the particular facts of what's before them, and then they make a determination based upon the history of that defendant and what the crime is being alleged at that time.
All right. Let's go to the next question for you, Mr. Auerbach, first. Do you believe you'd encounter any problems in moving from your role as an advocate in a courtroom to your role that you're seeking now, a neutral judge over the proceedings?
I would not, because over 30 years I've been a AAA, American Arbitration Association arbitrator, and I've been a paid judge where two parties would pick me to judge their case. And so I've done that over 50, maybe 80 times. So I don't think there'll be any transition other than some of the requirements that the county puts on judges in terms of when they start, when they stop. Otherwise, we let the parties decide that when you're an arbitrator, but when you've got a whole staff of secretaries, court reporters, court clerks, bailiffs, you have to kind of mold your schedule to theirs.
Ms. Krall, you mentioned you had some small court experience. How would you answer that?
I have judicial experience. As a former judge in small claims court, I've had many people come before me, most of them unrepresented, but some with attorneys. So I already have experience in that regard. I'm also an arbitrator with Clark County's District Court, their arbitration program. I'm also currently an appeals officer with Las Vegas Municipal Court. I am also, and have been for many years, with the Nevada Supreme Court, a mediator with the Nevada Foreclosure Mediation Program, and I'm also an arbitrator with FINRA, which is the governing body of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So I have a whole slew of experience as far as judicial experience goes. So I feel that I will be able to start on day one and handle the cases that come before the court.
Schifalacqua, you'll be transitioning, representing the people, to being a neutral arbitrator. How do you think you'll handle it?
I think I'll handle it flawlessly. As I indicated, I'm in courts every single day, but my job is to seek justice, and that's exactly what I've done for all of my time in the district attorney's office, and that transition to the bench then is just the same.
All right, sounds good. Well, we will take a short break and be back with more questions and answers from District Court, Department 4.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's debate for Clark County District Court, Department 4. Our next question goes to Ms. Krall. I promise we didn't set this up, but do you currently believe that all citizens have adequate access to legal help? And if not, what would a judge be able to do about that?
I do not believe all of the citizens have access to legal help equally. What we have right now in Clark County at the District Court, we have a wonderful self-help center. We have not only a civil help center with some amazing people who work there, we also have a family law one. We also have the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, we have the Senior Law Project, and we have Nevada Legal Services. And those are great resources for areas such as landlord-tenant, bankruptcy, and consumer law. But they can always be expanded. We also have classes at UNLV's law school for people. But this is something that we can increase so we have better access to justice for everyone.
Ms. Schifalacqua, what do you think? Do all citizens have equal access to justice?
You know, I think that the justice system, and I appreciate this question, is often daunting to an average person. People walk in and they get nervous and they get worried, especially if they're not represented by counsel. Now, I work in, obviously, the criminal division, so there are court-ordered appointed counsel for persons who cannot afford their own counsel. So in that way, the access is the same when it comes to crime, because they are absolutely afforded a counsel before them. When it comes to other areas, I think that the self-help areas are key. They're key to being able to explain what oftentimes is overwhelming for the regular person, the language that we use and other things, to be able to explain it in a manner that can be used. The other thing that I think is important is online, there are forms that can be filled out to help navigate things like landlord, tenant, and otherwise. And the expansion of that is always beneficial, as well as, I believe, district courts or other courts assisting in education.
Mr. Auerbach, what do you think?
I do not think the legal system in any way helps people that don't have enough money to hire a lawyer. And the only thing a judge can do is be patient and be respectful. But it's unfortunate. The language is like a foreign language to most litigants, most regular people that try to represent themselves. It's impossible unless it's been in small claims court. Small claims court is probably one of the best places for an individual that doesn't have the money for a lawyer to go to. But once you get into justice court and district court, it becomes almost impossible. So as a judge, all I could do is just be patient.
This next question to Ms. Schifalacqua, can you name a case that you believe was decided improperly and tell us why?
A case that, and I appreciate the question, that I think has been decided improperly, other than maybe some personal cases that I've been a part of.
So, I probably should have put a...
Right, I was just going to say, at the top of my head, I can't think of one right now that hasn't already been remedied. So while obviously we can look back on cases historically that, of course, were decided improperly, especially when it came to race or otherwise, we have then since remedied those things with the overturning of the cases, like with Brown v. Board of Education, that was successful in overturning things that absolutely were abhorrent in our history.
Mr. Auerbach, what do you think?
I've seen a lot of cases that were decided in a way that I did not agree with, and unfortunately it depended on whether the client had enough money to appeal. Because only clients that have quite a lot of money can afford the cost of the transcript, can afford an attorney to prepare the briefs. Luckily, about 20 years ago, the Nevada Supreme Court started the Supreme Court Settlement Program. And I was for 17 and a half years, a Supreme Court settlement judge. And we got training in mediation, training on trying to help people come to a resolution. And so in the beginning, 75% of the cases settled. Currently, it's about 50% of the cases. But mediation along the way is about the only way that you can help litigants resolve their dispute quickly.
Ms. Krall, what do you think? This is a case that was decided improperly, and why?
Yes, actually. I had a case, it was a landlord-tenant case, and in that particular case, I represented the tenant. And off the record, the judge said, in his personal opinion, he did not believe that landlords should be liable for anything that happened to the tenants on the property. He disregarded the law. The expert was not allowed to testify, and the case was lost, but the client did not have the money to appeal the decision. So yes, I have personally seen that in the judicial system, and that is one of the main reasons why I am running, because I believe that a judge's personal opinion has no place in the courtroom.
Our next question to Mr. Auerbach first. What do you think can be done to reduce the cost of judicial administration in Nevada, if anything?
One of the problems with the lawsuits is that they last a long time. And to be more efficient for handling trials and hearings is one of the most critical things we can do to help our community. For example, every day lawyers come in and they talk. And one side says, "Judge, I would like you to do this." The other side says, "Judge, I would like you to do this." And the judge hears from both sides. I think one thing that could make it faster is a judge could have already read the briefs and could say, "I only want to hear from the person who I ruled against." So it could reduce the amount of time that the parties have to pay their attorneys to be in court, and the amount of time that court has to be in session on that issue before going on to trials.
Thank you. Ms. Krall?
Absolutely. In this department, Department 4, it's 100% civil department. And one of the great things that is available to civil judges is that they can volunteer their time to settle other judges' cases. So as an arbitrator and a mediator, I have a lot of experience with this. So what I can do, if elected, is that I would volunteer my time to another judge's department and say, "Look, I want to try and resolve this case for you." Because not only does it help the other judge, it helps the other parties. And this is something that I will pledge to do if elected to Department 4.
Ms. Schifalacqua, what do you think?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I wanted to correct one thing. I've had criminal cases in Department 4, so even though right now Judge Early is sitting as civil, she actually has had a split docket, and can and will go back to that depending on the chief judge, so I want to make that clear. With regard to criminal matters, it's a little bit different, right? Because no cost is too much if we want to have a fair and complete trial for someone who is accused of a crime and for victims who have had crimes perpetrated on them. So I think that judicial administration largely depends on sometimes what's before someone, because we would never want, for example, in a criminal court case, or even quite frankly in a civil court case, to only hear from one party. Parties depend on records being made so they can do what it is my opponents had talked about earlier, which is appeal things if need be. And so I think the biggest thing is making sure the judge holds fast to a timeline, that they are timely in their decisions. And that will reduce things, that if they want briefing, it's done, and that they hold the persons accountable before them to that timeline.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We're going to take a final break, and we'll be back with closing statements right after this.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the debate for Clark County District Court, Department 4. We're now going to hear closing statements from the candidates. Ms. Schifalacqua, please lead off.
Thank you. Every single day, I'm in a courtroom. I was in Good Springs this morning. I'll be in District Court tomorrow, and North Las Vegas on Thursday. Extensive courtroom experience is what I bring to the table, and I will not sit by and criticize others, but am and will continue to be the most prepared every time I walk into a courtroom. This is absolutely why I am running for District Court Department 4, and why all of major law enforcement agencies have endorsed me for the same. And I appreciate your vote.
Ms. Krall?
Thank you. I am very passionate about the law. I have judicial experience, and if elected, I will be hardworking and focused and give everyone the fair and impartial treatment that they deserve.
Mr. Auerbach?
I have 42 years of experience as a litigator, as an arbitrator, as a mediator, and I want to use that experience to help move cases along faster, more efficiently, less costly, and yet still maintain a fair hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. My thanks to all the candidates for participating in the Clark County District Court Department 4 debate. Thanks for watching. Stay up to date at reviewjournal.com. We'll see you next time.